fantastic. We're going to go ahead and get started for today. I am so glad you're here. It looks like we've got a lot of members of Congress, we've got a lot of staffers, and we've got a lot of youth in the room, and I think today is going to be a wonderful day. It's been really good so far. My name is Alex McFarland. I work at Foster Club on policy, and then this is Jatane.
My name is Jatane Hart, and I am with the National Foster Youth Institute.
And so we've got a little bit of a program for you today. So we are going to have some remarks from a couple members of Congress. We have a wonderful guest speaker for you. Victoria Rao is here. And at the end of the program, we've got some opportunity for you guys to have some discussions with your Congress member at the table. And the Congress members, you got some time to talk to the youth. And then we also have a great panel from our Champions of Change at the White House. We've got 4 outstanding young leaders who are doing great things back in their states to create change for foster care. So with that.
So, it's really amazing to see this room so full of young people and staffers and members so committed to this issue. I remember it's been about 7 years since I first came into this room, came to the Capitol, and got to share my story with members of Congress. I was a foster youth intern, and to now be standing here and getting to give back and see so many new faces and young people who are so committed to this issue and sharing their stories and experiences, it is unreal. I'm really excited for today. I'm excited to hear about your experiences during the shadow today. And I'm super excited and honored to get to, first, I'd love to give everybody, all the shadows, a round of applause for being here, for really, being committed to this, being committed to being champions. And I really want to, I'm really honored to introduce Congresswoman Bass. She is from Los Angeles, California, and one second. It is not going to say very much about you, but one of the reasons she ran for Congress was really to change child welfare at a federal level, which she was already doing in California. And she is a co-founder and co-chair of the Congressional Caucus on Foster Youth, and I'm really excited because she is also a fellow Trojan and MSW from USC as of Friday, and so that is so exciting. Please help me in welcoming her to the podium.
What Jatane didn't tell you is that she's also a recent graduate getting her master's in social work so she can continue to fight on behalf of foster youth. Well, I want to welcome everyone here. It's hard for me to believe that this is the 4th year in a row that we have done the Congressional Shadow Day, and every year we get bigger and bigger, and it's just wonderful to see so many foster youth and so many members of Congress here. Yes, thank you, Janice. I want us to jump right into our program, but before we do, I did want to acknowledge the members of Congress here, and I hope that if I miss anybody, that you will stand up and shout out your name in case I miss you. There are 435 of us. Let me begin by acknowledging the co-chairs of the Congressional Caucus on Foster Youth. Tom Marino, who is also the founding co-chair, who will be up and share a word with you in a minute. I saw Tom. There's Tom Marino right there. Trent Franks, who is right there. We serve on Judiciary together, and he is a major advocate of foster youth. Gwen Graham, who is a new member of Congress, who is joining us. Tony Cardenas from Los Angeles, major champion for youth. Janice Hahn, who will be leaving us soon, but continuing to fight on behalf of foster youth in Los Angeles County. Ted Lieu, new member of Congress, who fought on behalf of foster youth in California. Danny Davis, one of the veterans, champions, and tremendous legacy on the issue. Jim McDermott, where's Jim McDermott? Author of Fostering Connections, I think he slipped out, but anyway, he is definitely one of the giants in this building on the foster care issue. Brenda Lawrence, new member of Congress, a life story on foster youth. And Alan Lowenthal from Los Angeles, or Long Beach, we claim you. And Mark Wayne Mullen. Is that it? So let me thank all of the members of Congress for being here today and the time you spent with your youth, which is a tremendous experience. Did I acknowledge Glenn Thompson? If I didn't, there you are. Thank you. Gave a great floor speech. And let me bring up Mr. Tom Marino, founding co-chair of the Congressional Caucus on Foster Youth.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so proud of the youth that's here. My wife and I have been involved in foster care for a while. I've been involved in foster care for many years. I was a prosecutor, and I particularly paid attention to children and youth issues and foster issues because my children are adopted, but I always put my children in the stead of a foster youth or a foster child. For the simple reason, just today, my daughter, who is 20, calls up and says, Dad, Mom and I are having a misunderstanding. So Dad's the one she always goes to on any issue, or Dad, I need help with my geometry, or Dad this and Dad that. So I put my daughter in the position of a foster child because that gives me that much more encouragement to make sure that our foster children are in a stable, loving home, and that we promote adoption for older foster children. That's critically important. And I would say to myself, my heart would be broken if I knew that my daughter had to go through various homes, that she was switched from one school to the next, and she did not have a loving parent to go to say, Dad, look, I got an award in school, or Dad, Mom and I have a disagreement. So we have offered a good home for our foster children, and I'm a big brother as well, but my wife and I and my children have gained so much more from the foster children that we're associated with and that have lived with us that it's worth its weight in gold. So I want to thank you for giving that experience to us. And my friend Karen Bass, who were next door neighbors, I love her dearly. She asked me to come on board with this early on, and I said I couldn't say no to her. But you know that every congressperson that was mentioned here and others, we have your back. We are changing legislation, we are improving the quality for foster care, and we are promoting adoption. And I hope to see you, and if I can provide any service to you, please call. We love each and every one of you. God bless, and we are here for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Congressman Marino. It's really an honor to hear, congressmen and women and all of you who are doing so much for foster youth, like myself and Detain, and we've really came far, and I don't think we could have done it without the unwavering support that we have from you all. So I am honored to introduce Christine Kalpin. She is the Managing Director of Public Policy at Casey Family Programs.
Thanks, Alex, for the introduction. My privilege to welcome all of you here today on behalf of our Board of Trustees and our CEO and President, William Bell, who are all tireless advocates for kids in care. Casey Family Programs is headquartered in Seattle, and we've been serving children throughout this country for the past 45 years. As a foundation, we believe that the goals of the nation around securing the well-being for all children should be about keeping children who've been abused and neglected safe from any further harm, but also about preventing the abuse and neglect that is occurring, and by doing this, we strengthen families and their communities. I want to join everyone here, obviously, in thanking the co-chairs of the Congressional Caucus on Foster Youth for their incredible leadership and the unwavering support they've provided to champion this issue throughout the halls of Congress. Without your efforts, we certainly would not be here with all of you celebrating the 4th annual Shatter Day. And also, again, thank you to all the other members of Congress who are here today, spending time with the youth and also with those of us at lunch. It's been so exciting to watch this event grow each and every year, and to see it at plus 60 this year is just fantastic. So our founder, Jim Casey, who founded United Parcel Service, so the little brown boxes, believed very deeply in the power of families and in the importance of investing in individuals, and it's his generosity that allows us to really dedicate our efforts towards this goal. While we know how important foster care is and that foster care can save a life, we know even more that foster care should not be a way of life. We believe strongly that the voices of those of you here in the room should always be front and center in every conversation that we have about improving the outcomes. And we work tirelessly to bring your voices to the halls of Congress. I'm sure all of you who spent time with youth encounter what all of us do, and that's generally the response of, wow, I learned more today than I've learned in hours and in days of presentations. And it's that passion and commitment that takes us forward, and I encourage all of you to continue this. We'll continue this effort, we'll continue this, and I want to really encourage all of you to sort of take the spirit of the lunch forward and think about all the various ways you have to champion this. A lot of why we are here and why we celebrate Shadow Day this month is because we celebrate National Foster Care Month. And I think those of you who had the opportunity to join the wonderful White House event yesterday on the Champions of Change also may not know that at the same time there was an incredible foster youth, Lexi Gruber, who was testifying before the Senate Committee on Finance, which is one of the most powerful committees in Congress. And she was sharing her story of growing up in foster care and most importantly of her experience in a group home. And anyone who saw that, and if you want to see the testimony, it's on the Finance Committee website, cannot sort of discount the incredible impact that that had. Every member of Congress who was there asked her a question. Everyone wanted to understand her experience. It was that voice and that genuineness of their experience that really informed where they were wanting to go. I know that each and every one of you did that this morning in your encounters with the members. Please, I encourage all of you to continue to do that. We will be a resource to all of you. We want to thank you, we want to thank the members, and we do really hope that we continue to lift up this event and continue to see it grow and grow every year. So it's now my privilege to introduce Celeste Bodner, who is the Executive Director of Foster Club, and Marlo Nash, the Executive Director of the National Foster Youth Institute.
Thank you, Christine. I'm delighted to join my friend Celeste here to add to the welcomes that have already been spoken and to share a little bit about the events that we've been hosting this week. Our two organizations, Foster Care Alumni of America, Foster Youth in Action, and Casey Family Programs work in coordination with the Caucus on Foster Youth to host the annual Congressional Foster Youth Shadow Experience each year during May, Foster Care Month, to bring young people together with federal officials and members of Congress to explore ways to make the system work better.
So Marlo and I would like to thank Lacey Kendrick-Burke. Lacey, if you could stand. Is she here? From Foster Care Alumni of America, and Matt Rosen from Foster Youth in Action for bringing their teams to join ours to host the event this year and every year. As you can imagine, it takes quite a bit of planning, coordination, and leadership to create this opportunity for all of the young people and to create a push for urgent system reform. We're so grateful for all of the staff and volunteers that joined us this year, so if I could ask the staff and volunteers to please stand.
A lot of them are outside.
A lot of them are outside, yeah.
Next, we'd like to thank the members of Congress for hosting a shadow. It means so much to the young people. And we're grateful to have so many members that appreciate the importance of the young people's perspective. We know Shadow Day gives you the rare opportunity to hear stories you can use in your work.
Our theme for the Shadow Experience this year is #FosterYouthVoices. The young people in this room have a combined total of more than 500 years of experience combined in the foster care systems. As experts go, they have a PhD in resilience. Nowhere else but from their voices can you hear the unique perspective of lived experience to inform a system that should work to support their success in school, work, and life.
So if we can ask each of the shadows to stand up for a minute, please. Give them a big applause. Woo! And stay standing for just a minute. Stay standing. These youth are being asked to remain engaged with organizations and with your offices beyond this week's events. We're asking them to be key partners in improving foster care for the weeks and months and years ahead. And we look forward to our continued work with all of you. Enjoy the program.
Well, with that said, this year's theme is so fitting for every single person in the room. The theme was being a champion for yourself and for others. And if you look around the room, every single person in this room is a champion in their own right. They're committed to contributing your time, your energy, your resources to really ensuring that youth in care have a fighting chance, that they have success, that they have happiness and love and all of the things that come with that. And you know, champions are fighters. They beat the odds and they're winners, and every single person in this room is a winner. Whether you're a shadow, whether you're a member of Congress or a staffer or a supporter, all of the impact that you have every day, you've had and will have, does not go unnoticed or unfelt or unappreciated. And so I am so excited because this next segment of the program is really inspirational for many reasons, but particularly because each of the people shadowing in this room, it's an opportunity to see what's possible. Each of the people on this panel have been just where you are at some point, learning what it was to be an advocate, learning what it was to share their story, and what they have been able to do over time has been phenomenal. The impact they're having in the child welfare community, in their home communities, in local communities, federally, worldwide is just amazing, and it really does plant the seeds for each and one of you of what's possible, and even members of Congress of when you invest a little time and energy into these young people, what's possible and how they can be the change if we support them in doing that. So I get to introduce my dear friend and powerhouse, Nicole Dobbins, who is the Executive Director of Voices for Adoption. She is going to moderate the panel, and what she's been able to do here in DC and really uplifting the need and the voice for children who need to be adopted is amazing. And I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce the panelists and take it from there.
Thank you, Jatane. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. At this time, I'd like to bring up other champions, and those members are Daryl Coffring Bear Crow, Chelsea Favor, Mary Lee, and George White. Session that you had with Mr. Graham, the Seattle write-in. And so we did something a little bit different today for this panel based on your feedback. And so what we're going to do is have a panel, but we're going to be interactive. We're going to let you ask, or let our ask you all questions and respond. So throughout the panel, we are going to go through and have each of our panelists share a little bit about themselves on different topic areas, and then we'll respond a little bit by asking all of you to maybe raise your hand when they ask the question on a specific topic. For members of Congress, first of all, thank you for participating in this wonderful program. Thank you for being here at this lunch. We know you're very busy. We understand that each of you were given yellow cards, and so if you would like to respond to anything that our panelists have said, or anything as the young people respond to the questions, anything they've said, just please raise your yellow card and I'll call you. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to let you know a little bit of rules around this panel. One, all of you have learned what it means to strategically share. Raise your hand if you learned strategic sharing already. Okay, so that's really important. We know that we have to protect our stories, and so we're going to continue that in this space, in this conversation. Because it's a really short panel, I am going to be the mean person today, and it might have to cut you off. I'm the least mean person I know, and probably the least mean person that many people would in this role and in this capacity right now. And then also in the points, not only from our panelists, but also you as young people, when you're being asked a question and you're raising your hand and you've been called on, please remember to be point-driven and soundbite your message to about 30 seconds because we want to get the most out of this session. So I'm done with all of the reminders, the notices, and how this panel will be structured. Let me jump in and tell you a little bit about myself and how I got here because I understood some people wanted to know that yesterday. So again, my name is Nicole Dobbins. I'm board president of Foster Club, one of the organizers of this event. The only reason I'm involved in advocacy is because of the opportunity, and I'll stress to all of the adults in the room, the opportunity I was given when I participated in that internship. I was very lost because I had been in the foster care system, at least having involvement, since the age of 2. But then I was actually kicked out of my foster home just one day after graduating high school. All of you probably know what comes with the feeling of that, and so I really struggled. I put a mask on, and I was okay, I presented okay on the outside, but on the inside, I was very, very broken. I thought about committing suicide almost daily, but somehow I made it to college, and I ended up doing the internship with Foster Club, and it changed my whole trajectory. I learned that my experience could be my expertise, and I learned how to advocate not only for myself, and learn how to build relationships with people, but I learned how to turn my experience into how to effectively change the child welfare system, and I know that's why all of you are here today. Young people, raise your hand if this is the first time you've been to Washington, D.C. Raise your hand if this is the first time you've ever been on an airplane. Raise your hand if this is the first time you've ever done advocacy. I hope that this will not be your last, and one message I want to get across is, while I might seem comfortable in my skin right now and comfortable in advocacy, this was not me, and I'm going to share a very short story. When I started advocacy, and every day I'm nervous. This is me nervous right now. I'm like shaking a little bit. So I know where you are because I've been in your shoes. And one time when I started very early, about 21 years old, maybe even 20, somebody came up to me after I was sharing my story with a caseworker, and she said, if there were more young people like you in foster care, then I think we'd have a lot better outcomes. And I was really upset by that comment, and I said, well, wait a minute. You only see me now as I present myself right now. I don't think you would say the same thing if you met me a few years ago and I had acting out behaviors or I wasn't this polished. So what I want you to take away from this is a learning experience, and I want you to take away 3 big things. I want to share that same notion with you. Don't take away that I've always been this polished, because I haven't. It's taken a lot to get here, and I want you to know that you should never give up, don't be afraid, and continue the fight of advocacy, because your voice is what makes the difference, and all the congressional members and staff can tell you that. Policy is being changed because your involvement in the child welfare system and your story giving back. So that's my story, and at this time I'm going to transition to our panel, and then we'll have some audience interaction. So Mary Lee, I'm not going to introduce her, I'm going to let her introduce herself. She's going to speak on older youth permanency. So at this time I'd ask that you give us a brief introduction, again brief, age, length of time in foster care, and the type of placements you have.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you everyone for having us as panelists today and giving us the opportunity to continue the conversation from yesterday. My name is Mary Lee, and I am 33 years old. Please don't move, because I know that's old. And I was in foster care starting at the age of 12 due to abuse and neglect. And I was in care for almost 5 years before I was adopted 1 week before my 18th birthday. And I would say, and I touched on this yesterday, that find something that you're really good at, find something that makes you happy, and use that, because we all have to find something in our life that promotes well-being. So it could be a sport, it could be a hobby, whatever it is. I would just encourage you to find that, because there are going to be stress and emotions that come along with advocating for yourself and telling your story. Sometimes it can bring up old memories or things like that. So I would just encourage you to find an outlet, or even if it's just connecting with other young people who've had similar experiences as yourself, who can kind of understand you and talk And my question for you all is, what kind of services would young people want after they've been adopted, reunified, or found another form of permanency? Zachary.
Yes, ma'am. I was just going to say, I know that my name is Zachary. I was just going to say that I know that when you age out of foster care, college tuition is pretty much taken care of depending on which school you go to. But when you're adopted, that all gets taken away. So that's the only thing really that I can say would be helpful after you get adopted by a forever home.
Great, thank you, Zachary. And actually, I think that's more of a myth. There is legislation that was created that when you fill out your FAFSA form, so the financial aid form that you fill out when you're going to school, there's a box that you can check to say that you were adopted after the age of 13. And when you check that box, it means that your adopted parent's income is not included as your own income. And so then you're automatically eligible for Pell Grant and other financial aid. But that is a great question, and I don't think enough people know about that resource that's out there, and really educating caseworkers, foster parents, adoptive families, and young people about that resource.
Mary Lee, can you expand a little bit and briefly about why you're such a proponent of adoption or permanency for older youth, why you wanted to be adopted at the age of 17, and why you worked on that?
Yeah, so for me, when I was growing up in foster care, I never really felt like I belonged. Today I probably look like I have it together, but that wasn't always the thing for me in my life. There were struggles. Coming into care, I felt very isolated, very alone, and it was through meeting other young people that I really found my voice, and really felt like I had a purpose in life and meaning. But even after I did that, I still felt like I wanted a place to go home to. I needed family and I needed a support system, and it wasn't just for all the bad things that happened like a flat tire, but I also wanted someone who could celebrate life's accomplishments with me. And so that's really why I wanted a family. And I actually went up for adoption at 16 and was placed in my adopted home at 17. And as we were nearing the end of a 6-month waiting period, I was told by my adoption worker that I should wait and age out of foster care so that my adopted family wouldn't have the burden of sending me to school. And I didn't think that that was fair, that I was having to choose between a forever family and being adopted. So I was actually able to tell my story on Capitol Hill, and Senator Coleman heard the story and created this legislation, which is nicknamed the Mary Lee Bill. And that's just another great story of how sharing your story can actually impact the child welfare system. So I encourage you, no matter how insignificant you feel that your story might be or the challenges that you face, I encourage you to share those and to tell them. And there's also something very empowering and very therapeutic about sharing your story and realizing that you're not alone, that there are other young people who are going through the same things that you are.
So Mary Lee, we did take one question, but we'll take another from the audience. So if you would repeat the question and then let you raise your hand for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question was, what kind of services would young people want after they've been adopted, reunified, or experienced another form of permanency?
Other things other than aging out, my biggest concern, it's always been my biggest concern, I was in care for over 14 years, but at the age of 15, I ran away from my group home, and I kind of like never looked back. And then when I turned 18 to go to college, the state, and from state of Texas, in the state of Texas, if you're in CPS or your 18th birthday, you can go to college for free, they'll pay for it. I was not given those funds, and I was told that I wasn't in CPS on my 18th birthday, but I spent over 15 years in the system. So I would like for people who, not necessarily, and I think people have an understanding that if I hadn't ran away, I probably wouldn't be here today. And so even though it was not ideal in most people's eyesight, it's something I did to save my life. And so now, moving forward, when I decided to go to college, those resources should have been given to me versus me staying in the system, turning 18, and not going to college. So that's what I would like to see. I would like to reevaluate or look at the process of giving youth financial assistance to go to college. depending on how long they're in the system, based on being in the system on their 18th birthday. Thank you.
That is an excellent point. And I completely agree, because just because on that date of your birthday, there's nothing special about it, especially if you've already experienced all that time in care. And we really need to think about how we empower young people who experience foster care to be able to pursue their education.
Great. Thank you, Mary Lee, and thank you, young alumni participants, brave in asking those questions. So we're going to turn to Mr. George White, who's going to talk about birth-family relationships. I'm going to ask you to please, again, be brief in your introduction, share your age and length of time in care and type of placement before asking your question.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'd start by saying, years old, I spent 16 years in care in California, all throughout Los Angeles area, in every type of placement, whether it be congregate care, that's how I entered care, and was in foster family homes, group homes, and then eventually non-relative kinship care until 16 to 18. And so, for me, birth-family relationships and connecting to birth-family relationships has always been important, like it is for many of us. We know that as we enter care, whether it be at an early age or at a young age, there's always this desire to reconnect with our biological family, even if we never knew them. And so for me, it was really important for me to connect with my biological family, but it was never something that was a heartbreaking desire that I was going to allow to ruin my life. And so I had someone once tell me that, you know, in order to reconnect with your family, there's going to be some pain that you have to deal with. So when I was 14, going through this process of reconnecting with my family, I remember taking a 2-hour drive out to visit my grandmother, aunts, moms, other brothers and sisters that I'd never met. And I was supposed to spend my whole spring break there, so a whole week. And at day 2, me and two other of my brothers who drove up realized we did not want to be there. We had nothing in common with these folks. So we called our social worker who drove us up there and said, we want to leave now. And so he drove up at midnight and picked us up. And in looking back, it was one of the bravest things that I think I've done. And you know, now I look at it and we always say, oh, we need to create safe spaces for people. We need to create a safe place for this. But in doing that at 14 years old, there was nothing safe about reconnecting with my biological mother, who, you know, who left, who lost all of her children and then went and had more children, right? So that's going to open up some wounds. And so being brave to go through that process. And, you know, I want to kind of back up to something that Nicole said earlier about, you know, being brave and being someone who is willing to stand up. How she said, someone said, oh, I wish we had more young people like you. I'm pretty sure a lot of us in this room get those kind of statements. Oh man, I wish there were more young people just like you. Well, the truth is, there are 65 young people in this room just like me. And but even greater than that, there are nearly 500,000 young people across the country that are just like me. But the issue is we need to give them opportunity. And when given the opportunity, they will shine brighter than any star we've ever seen. And so my question for you guys today is, you know, when we talk about reconnecting with our birth families and just whether it be cousins, brothers, sisters, mothers, what do you think we should be doing to make this, the question, I'm laughing because the question says safely, but I'm going to make it brave. How do we create that brave space for young people as they reconnected with their biological families while in here? Anyone? I see a hand way back.
I think that it shouldn't be forced on the youth. Like all of a sudden, like you find out that you have this family, you go visit because it's a shock almost for a youth to reconnect with family and find out that you really don't have nothing in common, like you was raised differently. And so that's what I think, that it shouldn't be forced on the youth.
Great. We have one more right up here in the front.
Before reconnecting with family members, I think youth should reevaluate the headspace. I currently reconnected with my mother, and I had to learn that my past is my past, and that, you know, grudges don't hurt me, it not hurt her, but it hurts me. So make sure you're in the right headspace first before the reconnection. And even though you don't have something in common, it's just building a bridge and kind of breaking the ice. So once you get over the past and your headspace is clear, you're open to building a relationship for a long term.
That's great.
We have one more comment back here.
I have no family where I'm from in California. I only have my mom, and I don't have a good connection with her, but I do have an aunt in Florida. And ever since I've been in care, I expressed that to my social worker that I really would like to get in contact with her, because my mom was the reason why I didn't have contact with her. Growing up, my aunt took care of me, and it got to a point where I started calling my aunt mom and my mom by her first name. So my mom loses attention with her. She separated me from her, and I never got to see her again. To this day, I've been in foster care for 5 years, and I have not got a chance to visit her out in Florida. My social worker doesn't ensure that I have a connection with her or not. It is hard for me to reach out to her because I don't know what to reach out to her. Like, if I'm on the phone, I don't know what to talk about. It's not the same. When I was a little girl, I used to call her mom, and now I'm calling her aunt. And to me, that's really hard, and I get really emotional. So I feel like social workers should follow up, whether they are talking, or find out a way of how we can help to reconnect them and make sure that there's like some type of visitation. I mean, I know it's possible, but I've never gotten an opportunity to go out and visit her, and she can't come out and visit me because she's an immigrant, so she doesn't have papers. So it's really hard for her to come out to me. And they've explained, like, you know, I would love to see you. And I still just, I feel like social workers should really, or whoever's in charge of the youth, to make sure that there's a connection there, to find out ways and not have the youth try to pressure the social worker to get this, to do this, but to have a responsibility of reconnecting them, right?
Thank you for sharing that. So far we've heard really great commentary from both our panelists and our young people about supports needed for children, even when they go into permanency, so post-permanency support, and then also how we need to really support caseworkers in the development of conversations around protecting young people and being brave in the space of interacting with birth family. So at this time, we're going to turn it over to Daryl, who's going to talk about connections to culture. So again, if you could do a brief introduction and ask your question.
Good afternoon. My name is Daryl Concrete Bear Krill, Reservation. I spent, the state stripped 8 years of my life, and I spent 8 years in foster care. I am a failed Indian Child Welfare Act case. This is a federal mandated law. I got into this work 10 years ago. Nobody wanted to talk about cultural connections. No one wanted to talk about what it is to be an Indian kid in the state system. We fast forward 10 years, we have kids of all different races that are refugees to America, that are Nigerian, Dominican, Native American, and kids are getting stripped of their culture. Kids are not being allowed to attend ceremonies as a quinceañera or naming ceremony. And 10 years ago, we weren't talking about this, and 10 years ago, it was hard to talk about it. But it was a federal law that was passed 37 years ago to protect the best interests of American Indian children. So my advocacy work has been about protecting our culture and our sacred identity of who we are. And I think that if it wasn't for the internship in the foster club and raising the topic of what it meant to be Native American and American Indian, Alaskan Native in the state system, I don't think where I would be. So I think advice for you is that if you're on the topic and people don't understand it, they didn't understand what it means to be Indian in the Alaskan culture 10 years ago. 5 years ago, they were barely getting on board. Kids family programs were getting on board and understanding what it does affect us. So advice for you young people out there, find a topic, stay on it. You're going to have resiliency. You're going to have people tell you it's not important. It's not an important topic. 10 years from now, let's see what they'll say to that. So my question is, what can the system do to help young people maintain or initiate a connection to their culture. Jasmine?
Hi, I'm Jasmine. I'm half Ojibwe and Lakota Sioux in Golden River Tribe, Ojibwe side, Red Lake Nation. I was an ICWA case when I was younger, so ICWA has kind of established my entire work ethic. When I reached college, I just recently got my undergrad in social work. I'm going for a master's this fall in social work. But it basically, without ICWA, I don't think I wouldn't have had the ability to claim my identity and kind of embrace my culture. So I think it was really extremely important to maintain culture, but I think that to help this, you like mandated trainings with social workers, lawyers, judges, anyone that works with children's welfare would be really good to inform the uninformed, but then also to implement this in court trials, pre-trials, pre-hearings, but as well as implementing these practices within the child welfare system as a general, because every child, I think, deserves the opportunity to connect with their original roots, and I think in the end, there would be a stronger bond within the family and culture ties, I guess.
Thank you for that comment. As you can tell, 10 years ago, I was right where Ms. Steph is, or where she is. So now, fast 14 years, we're still talking about the compliance of ICWA. Thank you.
My name is Justice. And to answer your question, what I feel like they should do is have foster youth like surrounded, not necessarily by the people, but around their culture. Like, take them to maybe like festivals or powwows or like quinceañeras and stuff like that. Take them around it and surround them with it so they can get a sense of like their culture and see if they even want to pursue their culture differently.
Thank you, Daryl, and thank you again, young people. We know how important culture is, and we know that we have to work better as a system to address that very issue. And thank you for being brave again and raising those. At this time, I want to turn to Chelsea Favor. She's going to discuss juvenile justice and foster youth. I think now our panelists know the role, so please just introduce yourself and then answer your question.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chelsea Favor. I'm from Indiana, and I spent 2 years in a group home setting. And the topic that I'm really passionate about is juvenile justice and any type of contact with the juvenile justice system, whether you're dual adjudicated or whether you start out as a CHINS case, and really just trying to reduce the stigma that comes with foster care in general. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there have experienced a lot of stigma that can come with as soon as someone knows that you're a foster child. And so we really want to work at decriminalizing that term. And so what I really want to ask you all is, for those of you who are on the path of, for those of you who are going down the path of coming into contact with the juvenile justice system, or for you who have already come into contact with it, what can we do to help pull these youth back onto the right path?
Hi everyone, my name is Brianna. I think one way we can stop foster youth from coming into contact with the juvenile system is by creating a more open environment, allowing foster youth to actually express themselves without being hammered down by stereotypes or how you look or how I expect you to be. People should be able to express themselves that you can get to know the real them and actually create programs that they like and are interested in, so that they'll be committed and they'll want to stay committed.
Right. Yeah, and I think that brings up a great point, because as we all know, teenagers take lots of risks and we do make mistakes. But when we're in the foster care system, sometimes we can be worse off when we make those mistakes because we don't have the same support system. So I think that's a great point.
I think one way is, group homes can reduce recidivism rates, of course, but one thing is we need to stop the group homes that aren't effective, that aren't showing that they produce, progressive young adults, and that are just there to be another version of jail or another version of business.
Thank you.
Great, so that's our 2 questions. I see there's some other discussion. I think this is a really important topic. One, we know that we have a lot of work to do. Just panel and what we've kind of heard so far from young people and our panelists who have experienced this is that as a child welfare system, we've come a really long way, but we still have a really long way to go. We know that we have a lot of prevention and figuring out how we can incentivize better prevention to support birth families. We know that we need a lot of support post-adoption and things that folks pointed out. Children, even once they've gone to permanency through higher education to get those better results that we know we can have in terms of outcomes, connecting young people and making sure at the very beginning they have and feel supported in their cultural context, and then just the juvenile justice and how that overlaps and how we're not getting the best outcomes and how we need to be really investing in figuring that out and having young people at the table like yourselves as a part of that. So if you were inspired by this, if you feel like you're going to be continuing and being an advocate in your home state, and now you've learned a little bit about what that means and advocating through a policy lens. Okay, and can I hear a clap for that instead? Inspired by you young people, and I have no doubt that you young people will be all of us one day in the seats that members of Congress hold. I imagine that one of you will make it to that place, if not many more. So at this time, please just give our panelists a round of applause and yourself.
Nicole and the panelists. It was really interesting hearing their stories, their unique perspective on foster care. And really what I heard is that the system is designed by adults, and the system, this adult-informed system, is not responsive to the unique needs of our young people. It's not flexibly funded. The policies aren't flexible. And when I heard this young man say that, group homes are just like another way to keep kids in jail. And I know for myself, I was in a group home for years. There was no locked doors, but I was in the middle of nowhere and I couldn't go anywhere. I was kept there because they couldn't find a placement for me because they didn't think I was going to complete the program. They didn't have faith in me. And we all have really unique stories. And we have a great guest speaker here today who's going to talk to you about her story.
Yes, I am very excited. I, again, just want to reiterate how listening to you share your experiences and when you were sharing here about running away and that impact, like that's something you never even thought, I even thought about, of those, the people that fall through the cracks. And what resonated for me when you said that was that how important your story is and every other story is, because we don't get to hear those stories. As a policy, we see the bigger picture, but it's that little story right there that other young people have experienced that makes so much impact. So thank you for that. And I'm super excited, and I'm going to have you guys help me welcome our guest speaker, Victoria Rao. She has been a lifelong advocate of foster care, of adopted youth, of social workers and volunteers, of human rights, and really I'm excited to hear her story and her share with us this morning, or afternoon. So please help me welcome her to the podium.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. And remind me, I have a giveaway at the end of my remarks. Yeah, look, I'm from foster care. I get all excited when somebody comes to me with a box. Right? First, a little bit of housekeeping. I want to... well, I'll use my...
There we go.
Okay. I do have a cold, so I'm going to work with it. I want to just first say, before I formally start the speech, I'm going to ask all my foster brothers and sisters to protect your stories. Do not just give away your story for a soundbite or a photo op. Your stories need to be registered with the United States Library of Congress. And Juanita Lyle, Miss Juanita Lyle, who is a senior member, if she would just stand, if we could give her a round of applause. Juanita Lyle works with the United States Library of Congress. Three-time cancer survivor. Please protect your stories. It's very important. I'm not saying don't share your stories to promote and advocate for foster care, but your stories are unique, of very special import, and they're valuable, and they're worth money. So let's not get it on the cheap, eh? I also want to remind that there is a lawsuit going on right now. It's called ADVO Kids, A-D-V-O Kids. It's a lawsuit to ensure in the County of Los Angeles that foster parents will also get the notices. These are stakeholders in foster children's lives, and they're not getting the notices. And this lawsuit, which is being handled by Hadsel, Stormer, and Rennick, to make sure that they will be invited to the hearings and know where their foster children so that they're notified. They're not getting notified. So I want you to know about ADVO Kids, Google that, or log on to Hadsel, Stormer, and Rennick. So I wanted to get that housekeeping out of the way. All right. So good afternoon. It's thrilling to be invited to Washington, D.C. during National Foster Care Awareness Month and for this annual Congressional Foster Youth Shadow Experience. And I thought, you know, I do speak a lot. I have been speaking long time, but I wanted to write down my speech because what I have to say, I have to say. And I typically don't speak to tie it up in a neat bow. I speak to teach the truth. I'm sorry I was not on the floor with you today to bear witness, and I'm sorry I was not at the White House with you yesterday, but I was not invited. And I don't know if people understand that when you're a foster child, you definitely are a foster adult, and we still have those same feelings of exclusion. And perhaps at some point, someone will wake up to that understanding that you don't stop being a foster child after spending 18 years in foster care. Inclusion is really important to us. I wish to thank Congresswoman Karen Bass for her indefatigable commitment to foster care reform, as well congressional members present and distinguished guests. I also wish to thank the National Foster Youth Institute and Foster Club, and Lisa Kurtziel, and all of the youth, all of you, brilliant, courageous, brave youth from across the nation who have joined us these 3 days. As a former foster youth of 18 years, a foster care advocate since 1991, an American Ballet Theater alumna, a member of the Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists Union for 32 years, a member of the Television Academy, I want to talk to you about the people that got me here today, who gave me the courage and taught me self-worth, who taught me that I was worth something and I was worth the price of a postage stamp to send me a card or a letter, and insisted that I be my own self-advocate. To not only seek intellectual and economic inclusion for myself, but also my brothers and sisters who are underserved, voiceless, fearful, imprisoned, intellectually challenged, mentally ill, dead. I had to write my book, The Women Who Raised Me, because I had to write about the people who gave of themselves. And it was really hard to get a book deal as a foster youth, because as someone said, that stigma of us being in foster care, oh, they'll never get, oh my God, how could she possibly know? Oh my God. You don't even, I mean, that's another story. But what I had to go through with HarperCollins is another story. The book is still selling. It is now sitting on a shelf at the Library of Congress. It is translated into Braille. It is a teaching tool for social workers. And to Health and Human Services, I say thank you. Some people chuckled on that in the past. And I say thank you because none of this would be possible without my American citizenship, without that $87 a month that was paid to my foster parents. Thousands and thousands of people are dying at sea trying to cross the Mediterranean. Children and pregnant women, young boys and men, fleeing political unrest, seeking asylum somewhere else, America. Incarcerated in Texas, riding on the tops of trains trying to get to America. Thousands, again I repeat, are perishing at sea. Girls and boys forced into slavery and sex slavery. Here, oh yes, here, and abroad. There's so much to do. Without the advocacy of two amazing social workers in my life, Linda Webb and Patrick Moynihan. Linda Webb was just emailing me yesterday. We're still in touch. How could I let that social worker go? 18 years in foster care, I remember 2. 18 years in foster care, I remember 2 social workers. And I know so many of you understand what I'm saying. especially my brother in the back with only 11 siblings. Without the advocacy of my foster mothers and my mentors, Dorothy, Bertha, Agatha, Laura, Rosa, Sylvia, without my foster brother Richard Armstead, whose funeral I'm directly going to in New Hampshire this Saturday, who championed me to get off a dirt road in Maine and get into a ballet studio for an audition in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I showed up in sneakers and shorts because we didn't know anything about leotard and tights, and I won that scholarship. And the ballet teacher said to me, "Where did you study ballet?" "On a farm in Maine." And I said, my foster mother taught me from a book. And it is that experience, being shown how to be a champion for oneself, that we can be a champion for others. And isn't that what we're talking about? Look at your neighbor and say, "You're a champion." And now look at your neighbor and say, "Now champion me." All right then. Education comes from everywhere, and my sages, my North Stars, permanently imprinted upon my memory that the scope of wisdom and sacrifice that was made for me, the sacrifice that has been made for you, somebody stood up for you somewhere. They told me I must serve and pass it forward. Reciprocity. To be here on Capitol Hill to serve as a beneficiary, because that's what it is, of Health and Human Services, 18 years of governmental support, is a gift. It is a gift, and I am honored to be here. I have witnessed extreme poverty in Russia. Children in orphanages, in circus orphanages, that must learn the craft in the circus in order to stay there. I've witnessed children in Africa, India, leprosy colonies, children that live in leprosy colonies, Cuba, before the embargo was lifted. That poverty is still there. That poverty is extreme and more. Travel is so important, my brothers and sisters. Don't buy the bling, don't buy the car, don't have to buy. My favorite store is called Secondi. It's a used clothing store here in Washington, D.C. I'll be visiting there. I'm still in Goodwill. People say, "Did I see you coming out of Goodwill?" Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You saw me come out of Goodwill. Travel is so important because it is the purest education. Save your money and travel. See that purest window. See the people. See people like you, because this isn't about foster care. I'm not here to talk about the statistics. We know what they are. They're abysmal and they don't change. It's a business. And I find it horrific that people profit. I'm telling you, we are special people because we have a particular import that we can communicate with the globe in terms of underserved people, struggling people. And we have a special and unique message to carry to people globally, not in foster care, but people who are suffering because we learn compassion because we have to. The difference between me failing or succeeding was hard work and instinct. The difference between being a statistic, another school-to-prison pipeline child, required enormous intestinal fortitude, turning a no into a yes. And as Congresswoman John Lewis says, find a way to get in the way. Look at your neighbor and say, find a way to get in the way. Yeah, we're trying to get in the way. We're not trying to fit into that little box. We're talking about culture, inclusion. Prison systems stretch twice their proportionally populated. I'll be back at the Connecticut Federal Prison in June to talk to the women who have lost their parental. These women are in pain. They are. My mother was incarcerated. It was not fun for anybody. I'm one of 6, all of different fraternity. Our prisons are disproportionately populated with black and brown young men and women, many allowed to watch the art form of soap opera, a multi-billion-dollar corporate industry that I contributed to for 14 years and was award-winning, yet refused as a foster adult, though I gave storyline and I helped produce that story, refused any participation, compensation, or credit behind the camera. An industry fueled by advertising since 1930s radio, selling soaps, and sufficiently sponsored by Procter & Gamble. Much of my fan mail delivered to CBS was from prison inmates, again, 75% of the population once in foster care. And I always took an interest in that prison fan mail, and people would joke and say, oh, Vicki, oh my God, you're answering that fan mail? Oh my God, don't answer, throw that away. And I'm not trying to throw it away, and I'm not trying to laugh at that, because I knew that could have been me in that prison cell if no one had given me access to be at CBS to work for a soap opera. My options in life were made very clear. I could survive by holding onto a ballet bar or reciting lines on a soundstage in Hollywood, or I could be part of a statistic, and I continue to raise the bar. I continue to speak out. I'm so happy to hear about courage in this room, and empowerment, and bravery, because we have to raise the bar and speak out. There's an astounding lack of women in corporate America, an astounding lack of Black and brown executive above-board jobs and ownership inclusion in the entertainment and news media industry. And being a foster adult is why I had the courage this past February to file a retaliation lawsuit against my former employers, Sony, CBS, Bell Dramatic, Bell Phillip, and Corday Productions, for speaking out on lack of African American inclusion behind the camera. I wouldn't have had that courage if I hadn't spent 18 years in foster care. The daytime drama television industry, ABC, CBS, NBC, has an aggregate of over 500 network television years, and not a single African American executive producer in 500 aggregate years in soap opera, a multi-billion-dollar industry, and more. CBS and Sony are federal contractors receiving millions of taxpayer dollars every year. USAspending.gov, check it. Where is the accountability from the FCC? And 40% of your audience is African American. If we don't march as foster youth and speak up and speak out when we get that job and bring others in behind us, if we don't speak out until change happens, not only in this moment, I'm talking about when you are out there, because you're gonna get out there after college, and you're gonna see what I'm talking about. Successes such as the newly adopted minimum wage of $15 per hour in Los Angeles will not be realized. People marched, and people marched again, and now on the front page of the paper, $15 an hour. Can we get a round of applause? Job equity should be inaccessible. It should not be dominated by racial privilege. I work in an industry that's 98% white male. Big money in our politics makes it hard for emancipating foster youth and people of color to exert political power and effectively advocate for their interests in both wealth and power, or consolidate by a small, very white share of the population. We've got to change that. And you don't have to be Black or brown not to care about it. It's an absurdity. Life should not be a niche pursuit for the posh, but rather everyone's freedom. And this doesn't just happen. Like, this doesn't just happen, that we're all in this room together. There has to be a willingness to talk about change and changing the status quo. And to that end, I will say, what is happening in America and in the world, I dare say, is neither a race riot nor a class rebellion, rather a monumental upheaval of a multiracial trans-class display of social rage. And I took thank you, and I took a piece of that from Professor Cornel West. If we don't talk about inclusion of culture and race in our society in the United States, then we will never race forward. We fail as a people if true access is only for a few, only for those you feel comfortable with, and that includes in your boardrooms, it includes here in Washington. One is not enough, and two are not too many at the table. We fail in our humanity if only isolated acts of inclusion of foster youth and others are executed for a feel-good moment, for that sound bite, for that photo op, without any real systemic change. Why am I standing here and we're still talking about 500,000 children in foster care? I was given that stat 20 years ago here in Washington to talk about. I'm furious. 100,000 children available for adoption. And I see millions of dollars and fancy spreads and people doing, selling tables, all this, and I'm doing that. But what are you really doing for our foster children? We fail in our humanity. This not only breeds failure in our youth, but also in our adulthood. Ask me if I ever found a mentor who looks like me at CBS, Sony, or Viacom, and I will tell you no. I keep searching for that black ballet teacher at American Ballet Theater. Where is the mentor at HarperCollins Publishing? Corporate America, stop moving the touchdown line so that foster youth, minorities, and the underserved cannot score a goal. How can we score a goal? All right? Everyone deserves access, given merit. Let's not pin success on an entire race on a few. So if you have a black or brown or Anglo child, you're not going to pin a whole race of people on that one child that's doing everything. No, we all want access. And so in closing, as Abraham Lincoln said, this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom. And that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Follow me on Twitter at Victoria Rowell. My pound sign is Drew for Diversity. That's DRU, the number 4 diversity. I didn't come here to tie it up in a bow, folks. I'm the real deal. And I understand there's a Q&A. So, does anybody have any questions? You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions? No questions. Okay, so I'm going to give away some books. Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, okay, sure. That's a loaded question and a great question, and I liked your presentation, and I'm going to try to follow the remarks of our leadership earlier, who was wonderful. All the panelists were wonderful. I'm going to be very frank and just bullet points. Healthcare has improved. College was not afforded to me, and it was drilled into me, college is not afforded. And I'm 56 and I've just applied for college. Thank you. We'll see. We'll see. I've gone back to the state of Maine. I am endeavoring to get my college education from a state that denied it to me. I've applied to Bowdoin. So far they're saying no, and also to the University of New England. So we'll see. What can we do? We have to continue to advocate. That's the biggest thing, is to get the word out and advocate, and not to be afraid to speak. Because even when we speak, we're given guided talking notes, and you gotta be able to find the wiggle room between the rules. Yes, I took off my Hillary button because I was asked to. Quite frankly, I didn't wear my Hillary button to offend anyone. I wore my Hillary Clinton button because she stood up for legislative change for foster youth, as did her husband, who changed legislatively, President Clinton, for those that don't know in the room, changed the age for foster youth to endure beyond 18 for financial aid. So just wanted to get that out of the way. I hope I've answered your question. Someone else in back? Anyone else? Anyone else? Don't be afraid. Okay. Wow. Does anyone want a book? I have 15 books. Okay, so let me see a show of hands and maybe, okay, so I have to play my game. Okay, I gotta play a game. Okay, real quick. Okay, so, okay, who's gonna vote, by the way? Who's gonna vote? Who's voting? Who can vote? 2016. Wow. All right, let's get registered. What state is Congressman Susan Collins from? Go ahead. Forward. Okay, next question. What state is Congressman no, that's no. What state is, there you go, sir. What state is Congresswoman Maxine Waters from? Yep. Come on, man. What state is Senator Vincent Hughes from? Senator Vincent Hughes. Okay, can I keep going? Who has a Q in their first name? Q in your first name. Q in your last name. Q? Okay, help me. Do you want a book? Okay. Who's from South Dakota? Come forward. Okay, who's from Florida? You want a book? Two. Can you carry this back to your sister in the back? She's got the blue sweater. I'm just randomly thinking of these things. Who's got someone in your family named Mary? Oh, wow! Okay, whoa. Okay, come forward. Everybody come forward. Whoa. I think that's going to do it. Wow.
That's my little sister's name. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you.
And thank you for being so candid.
Thank you.
I'm writing one.
Absolutely. Oh my God, I'm out of books.
I guess I should take
Can
the
I
last
just take a
one.
picture with you? That's all I want.
Okay. Okay, all right. So I've signed all the books. I'm all out of books. But ask, would someone go up there and take a picture? Because I'd like a picture with all of you. So I'm going to give you my phone. Would you mind doing that? Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you.
Why don't we facilitate that?
So thank you so much. So we're going to take a really quick photo. So with everyone in the background here. So just stay kind of where you are for now. And we're going to take the day's biggest selfie too. Oh no? Okay, she's going to
be
take it.
up there.
Yeah, so we can get everyone in the shot. Oh, I guess me too. All right, everyone, if you could take your seats again, and we are almost done. We just got a couple more things for you.
What is that?
So thank you so much. What a powerful story. What an amazing advocate. Really what I think makes a great advocate is honesty and the ability to keep that like she was saying, that brutal honesty, I think really brings a lot of good points. I wanted to take a minute when I close to talk to you really quick about Shadow Day. What an experience. This day I participated in 4 years ago and had an opportunity to help plan this year. It was an honor. For the youth, this experience will carry with you for a lifetime. This is a point where you'll find your voice, and only one of many opportunities that you'll be able to prove that you're worth more than a paycheck. I never graduated high school. I was told to aim low in my goals. And next year I'll start veterinary school, a dream I had since I was 8 years old and I watched my stepfather push This is the beginning of your journey. In order to continue to have your voices heard, you need supportive adults. You need adults who understand what it means to build a youth-adult partnership. You need not only for the development plan, but to be meaningfully involved in your future to give you an opportunity to become something, to something that you already are. But also to improve a system that continually fails to meet the needs of those it serves. Foster youth need allies in their movement. And with that, we are done so far with our formal program. So what we're gonna do is give you guys an opportunity to chat with each other and your staffers in the room, and there will be some of you who will be departing. So thank you very much to Victoria Rao and our amazing panel and all of the different guest members of Congress we had today. Any? Yeah. Thank you.
See you, Alex.
Thank you.
You guys stay in contact, right?
Yes, yes.